they're starving kids in Palestine, and they're starving people. Then when they come for food, they shoot them until they're desperate. And now Hamas says they're ready for a ceasefire. So what it means is that the tactic worked: starve these people, kill the children, attack them, and then finally say, okay. They said Trump has said he's ready to give a ceasefire, and Hamas is ready to give a ceasefire. And now that goes according to what we said yesterday, which is the Abraham Accord, which is they want to turn Gaza and Palestine into a technocratic state in which they control the people of Gaza and maybe ship them out. So this tactic that they're using for starving kids and stuff is to make these people desperate so that they'll take whatever they can get. Do you see what I'm saying? Because what their next plan is through Saudi Arabia. Their next plan is to now turn Palestine into a technocratic state where there's surveillance everywhere, where they control what you do and everything, and they'll have other Arab agents like Saudi Arabia controlling the country. But all of that comes because they've broken the will of the Palestinians because people are starving. So they've broken their will, which was the whole point of killing these people for food. They were weaponizing their hunger and their desperation so that they can be broken, so that they can just give power to America and Israel to control them. What are your thoughts? Yeah.
Well, Hamas has always been ready to go for a ceasefire. And they have reached agreements on ceasefires, and it has been Israel that has pulled back at the last minute. Netanyahu was supposed to face corruption charges, but then he now persuaded the judge to delay his corruption case because he said something was going to happen in the war which would compromise him in his dealings with Iran. I'm not sure that with Gaza. And that was why he managed to delay. So the delays on the ceasefire are not because Hamas doesn't want a ceasefire, but because Israel doesn't want a ceasefire.
Yeah, but that's not
we had numerous.
What I was saying. What I was saying. See, once again, you're going off topic. What I was saying is that now the U.S. is saying that they're ready for a ceasefire because, and I'm saying that the tactic was that they will break Hamas so that Hamas will now finally accept the ceasefire because past ones Netanyahu walked away or the conditions weren't correct. So I guess what I'm saying is that now maybe Hamas will accept. They basically might accept a ceasefire in which they lose power, in which that country is governed by the West. Yeah.
Okay, I'm saying that they have been accepting ceasefires in the past. It has been Israel that's been refusing it. That's the point I'm making.
Yeah, but part of it is because of but even then, maybe they want to because the terms of the agreements weren't to Israel's liking. But now the terms of the agreement may be to Israel's liking. So in other words, maybe now Palestine will say, okay, we'll give up this, we'll give up sovereignty of our territory. Whereas before they wouldn't. So Israel was holding out. So Israel was holding out so that they could get a better deal because they said, no, we want absolute control of that country, so we're not going to sign it. So maybe they wanted to bring Hamas and Palestine to their knees so that they can accept being colonized.
Well, what Israel did was they pretended to accept the deal, and then when they enact the deal or about to enact the deal, they suddenly say they don't want it. They want this other deal. It's not that they just saw the deal and said,
yeah, but no. Eventually there will be a deal. And so the deal will be basically surrender. That's what it will be. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for an absolute surrender. And my argument is that's probably what's going to happen. We won't ceasefire unless you surrender. And I think Hamas is ready to surrender because their women and children are getting killed. The morale in Palestine is low. So what I've said is they've totally squashed the freedom movement in Israel. In Palestine, they would just surrender now.
Well, Israel said that if they do manage to defeat Hamas, all members of Hamas and all the prisoners, they're going to kill them all. So if they
but here's the thing. They'll just tell them surrender because how do they even know who's a member? Every male person in Iran is Hamas.
I've never heard.
All they have to do is surrender and then leave because I'm telling you, Trump wants this thing to end. Trump does not want wars. As much as we said Trump let down his MAGA base, he's not really willing for this war. The CIA and these guys forced him into that bombing of Iran. He didn't want to do it. He thought that by letting Israel attack Iran, the CIA told him, oh, it'll be over in 2 days. But it wasn't. Trump does not want this to continue. So my argument is that he'll work out a deal and basically tell these guys, just surrender. And if you surrender, you don't worry, we won't kill you, but you have to leave. My argument is you'll say that you have to leave Palestine. They're going to be shipped to somewhere like Rwanda or Egypt. What do you think?
Well, I've never heard of an occupied force surrendering. What normally happens is, well, when they do surrender, they're rounded up. And the only time I heard of it was in the Warsaw Ghetto,
The
where
Germans surrendered. They didn't kill every single German soldier. They killed the Nazi guys. Many people have surrendered. This in the they've been in history. Many armies have surrendered. Germany surrendered in World War One. They didn't kill
I
all
mean,
of them off.
people in occupation groups,
Yeah, but the
not
thing is, they've given up. They've
which
given up.
Hamas is a
The Native
resistance group.
Kool-Aid,
I
the
haven't
Native
really heard
Americans,
this
Kool-Aid.
group.
Eventually, the Native Americans surrendered in certain parts of America when the U.S. government became too powerful. They surrendered, and they said they will live on those small plantations, those reserves. The Native Americans surrendered. They
Yeah,
surrendered because
right.
they had been wiped out. They had been wiped out so badly. They surrendered
Yeah, they've
because
been wiped.
so
Exactly.
that's at least one case in history. The Native Americans surrendered. Shaka
Yeah,
Zulu, the Zulus surrendered.
most of the nation have been wiped out. Most of Palestine's population is still intact.
Oh no, they've been wiped. They've almost lost 1 million people. And let's not forget the Zulus.
1,000
The Zulus surrendered to the British. So it's not the first time. Occupied countries have surrendered before.
Again, the Zulus were a conventional force that they lost land, and they were a conventional force that were overtaken by an army with better
Yeah, but
technology.
I'm saying is that in history, countries have surrendered. Under Rome, Vercingetorix surrendered to Caesar. It's not the first time.
Yeah, that was an independent country. That was the Gauls were independent. What I'm saying in this case, they had already been like an insertion inside your empire that has already been.
But and also there's always the first. My argument is that Palestine has lost the will to fight now. They have no support from anyone, and they're just getting wiped out mercilessly. So it would make sense for them to surrender. They don't have an army. Palestine doesn't have an army. Where is Hamas? Well, I don't see Hamas on the streets fighting Israel. Where is Hamas? They've lost.
Because they're not going in. I don't know how they're fighting. You know, we're not seeing pictures.
They're not fighting at all. They don't have anti-air missiles. They can't stop if they're fighting. How come people from soldiers are shooting women and children while the soldiers are shooting women and children? Where is Hamas? And it's inside of Gaza. You guys have control. They've controlled it. Huh?
Israeli soldiers are getting killed. They are getting killed.
But not at a high enough, not in a high enough number to make a difference.
Yeah, but I don't know the numbers. Is what I'm saying. I don't have enough information on.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that this is all conjecture. My argument is that it's just conjecture, but it makes sense. They're tired. They've lost. They just have to surrender. They don't have help from anyone. There's no help. They don't have an economy. They don't have all of their weapons. Where do they get their weapons from? When their weapons run out, they won't even have weapons to fight Israel. Well, how will they fight? They're being blockaded. They don't have any help coming from anywhere in the world. So that even if they want to fight, what are they going to do? Fight with their fists? They've lost. They're going to have to surrender because they don't have help. Other countries had help. Vietnam had help from Russia and China to beat America. Hamas and Palestine have nobody on their side. No one. They can't win. They only have two choices: surrender or be wiped out. If Israel wants to, they can wipe out the whole population. Am I wrong?
Yeah, the Germans alone, when they lost all their allies and they're about to lose all their soldiers, and they just knew that they needed to hold long enough until the Americans came in. Yes, they are losing at this point in time, and it all looks hopeless.
The Americans came. Who's going to come? Who's going to come to help Palestine? No one. Nobody's going to come and help Palestine. Nobody.
The only people that can help Palestine are the people doing the killing itself, which is America and Israel. And the only way that can happen is for America to get back its polity from the Zionists that control it. And I don't know, and maybe you're probably right, that Palestine doesn't have that kind of time to survive long enough for that to happen. And they probably, because that would take a couple of cycles. I know the Palestinians have been fighting a losing war for 78 years, but there's not been this act of genocide. Now, there's another question of the backlash. What backlash will Israel receive from this? Will they continue to go on as a state? Will they be accepted by all the other countries? Because the world is in outrage. And even if the governments of the world pretend that they're okay with this, their people are not. So I don't know what the backlash will be. Also, when it comes to rebuilding all these places and putting the infrastructures back, the Israelis have always been dependent on the Palestinians for manpower, for building their infrastructure back. So they're going to have to import a load of people from somewhere to do all this rebuilding, even if it's whether it's Gaza, whether it's Israel. So I don't know whether they're going to look for a new population to do that low income work, or whether they're going to try to keep, because if they keep Palestinians, they're always going to remain a threat. And
Yeah, because so that goes back to what I was saying before. They'll have biometrics. The new plan for the Abraham Accord is that if Palestinians are there, they will be monitored every movement that they do. So it'll just be like ancient Egypt, where you have people building pyramids. They'll be slaves. So what this looks like is they'll be slaves.
Yeah,
and they'll
if
be
they're
happy
slaves,
just to be alive.
I,
They'll be happy just
I
to be
don't
alive.
think it'll work for a while, but it will never sustain itself. In this kind of modern world, it won't sustain itself. It will work for a while, but it won't sustain itself, because injustice cannot sustain itself. And there's always new people born, new young
You're
people
saying
with courage.
injustice cannot sustain itself. Injustice has the U.S. empire, which is based on injustice, has not fallen. So long as the U.S. exists and Great Britain exists and Europe exists, it proves that justice never wins, because none of these nations are just, and they have continued for 500 years of genocidal. The U.S. has wiped out the Native Americans. They killed more than 100 million black people through the slave Atlantic trade. They've killed people in Iran. So to me, it looks like justice doesn't win. It doesn't win.
But now it doesn't. But if they don't change their ways, then an empire cannot sustain itself on injustice. That's what breaks empires, when they become unjust.
No. What destroys empires is overstretching their reach. That's
yes,
it.
but even when you overstretch your reach, if you provide basic justice, you can keep your empire for a long time. That's why the
Yeah,
Germans
but
can
what
keep
they'll
it.
do is they'll provide justice for their own people, but not for the. So what I'm saying is that Israel will take care of its people and everything. They'll just use the Palestinians as slaves, and nobody will care.
Well, if you're too brutal in your occupation, you won't be able to
Oh,
sustain
it's not brutal enough. They've been killing
forever.
children. They've killed 58,000 women and children. Is that not brutal enough? I don't see anybody taking up arms against them.
I'm talking about long term, and I'm also talking about, for example, now Ireland is one of the first
Okay,
countries that
Clay.
big deal, but
Yeah, but what
Ireland
can Ireland do? Ireland doesn't have money. So long as the U.S. is in
I,
power, they
it's
can do
symbolic.
whatever they want.
It's a seed. It's a seed. Ireland has said they're no longer going to trade with Israel. That's the first Western country to do so. Spain looks like they're going that way. It's a small seed, but when you plant it, it grows, and more people will join that, and eventually, it will become something else. I do
Yeah,
not.
we'll be
This,
dead by then. We'll be dead by then. We won't see it.
I think it would happen in the
We will
next
be
5.
dead by
I,
then.
I think that we may or may not see Israel continue to survive in the next 5 years. It may be wiped out, not violently, but it may be boycotted out.
Maybe. Yeah, we'll
I
have to wait and see. Okay, so let's head out. Yeah, take us out, because we've done almost an hour, man. Not an hour, really, like 30 minutes.
So
Yeah.
it's been a passion day. We've diverted ourselves a little bit, going in and out of the disaster that is Gaza and Palestine. We've looked at the semantics of the other areas of it, and we do see that the situation is very dire for the Palestinians and for humanity. And all we can do is pray and hope for better. And from myself and Mustafa, I wish you adieu, farewell, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you. Yes, I'll probably see you tomorrow for one show at Tayao. Okay, thanks. Okay.
All right.
This shit is getting out of control, though. This war.
I know.
Let me turn this down. Yes, I'll see you later. I'm doing a show with these guys.